Today I changed my mind on the Changeling. Hello and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 1980 classic George C. Scott movie, The Changeling. So what I said in my intro there, my stinger, is that I changed my mind on it, and what I mean by that is I had seen this once before, just once, and it was part of a 24-hour movie marathon. I host at least 2 or 3 a year of varying types. The only real concrete one is Halloween time, and that's just normal scary movies. And it made the list. Decided to give it a whirl. It was on a lot of people's top 10 lists, so okay, you're going into the marathon. And here's the problem with having a movie marathon. It's fun. It's a great way to get with friends, and ultimately I enjoy doing them. I wouldn't do them otherwise. But if you've seen the movies a million times already, then it just becomes boring. And at some point, a movie marathon becomes less about the movies and more about the physical endurance of making it the entire 24 hours through all 14, 15 films. And that hour 15 through 20 is a real hog. It is tough to get through. And but if you haven't seen the movies ever, so you want to spice up the marathon, make it interesting for yourself as well as your friends, then you run into the issue of the movies that do wind up in that block where they are a hog and they're tough to get through. You know, keeping your eyes open, being attentive. Then you may wind up in the situation that I found myself in with The Changeling. When I first watched it, I didn't really care for it. I was bleary, I was sleepy, I was wanting, I was wondering whether or not I was going to make it through the marathon. I was downing 5-hour energy shots. And ultimately, I think that I missed the point. And when it came time to make a RotD review, and I saw The Changeling come up as a possibility, I said, you know what, I'm going to give this another shot. This has got to be on people's top 10 list for a reason. I may not have seen why before, but I'm going to try it out now. And now I get it. It is a great movie. The eyes that I was watching it were clouded originally, and now they are wide open, and I love this movie. This was a great haunting movie. And well, let's get into the categories and explore why. So, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot is our first category, and the plot follows thusly. A recent widower, and I'm not going to go into the circumstances of why he's a widower or anything like that. Granted, it's in the first bit of the movie, but at the same time, I try to make these reviews a bit spoiler-free, and I consider that to be a pretty major plot point, as well as a pretty interesting scene in general. So, a recent widower is trying to get his mind off of things and trying to regroup and rebuild his life. He's kind of gone through the most immediate mourning period. Of course, losing your family, your mourning period is probably never done. But he went through the most immediate steps of it, and now he's trying to rebuild. So he goes back to what I'm assuming is a university that had housed him once before, either as a student or professor, and they're super happy to have him there. Very welcoming and understanding of his situation, and we'll set you up with the class. He is a music composer, and they want him to teach that. So here's a class, here's a house that you can live in, and let us know if you need anything else. This house happens to be kind of a historical thing that nobody has resided in for a few decades because the university has been kind of taking care of it. So here you go, here's the keys. And then stuff starts happening in the house. So the movie kind of takes off from there. And overall, I thought every beat of this movie worked really well. I'm not going to say that it's the first movie that ever dealt with a haunting, but there's a particular category, subcategory, if you will, of haunting movies, and it's kind of investigative haunt movies, I guess. The nature of, I mean, we see it all the time today, but I don't think we saw it a whole lot back then, where somebody moves into a house and there is an entity, and were you kind of used to either The Haunting, Hill House, or Legend of Hell House. We're used to Amityville Horror by this point, and a lot of those are the house is evil. The malevolence is bred into the foundation of the house itself, or the house has the demonic presence in it, like in Amityville. This was strictly spirits, and you were trying to decide throughout the movie whether or not they were malevolent or simply trying to be communicative, whether or not they were trying to tell a story or trying to hurt somebody. And I thought that was kind of a unique take on it. So then it set the wheels in motion as those spirits became communicative in their own way. Whether or not they would wind up being malevolent was always kind of on the table, which I thought was good. It added to the tension of things. But as they became more communicative and they offered more clues and they revealed more about what they're about, it set George C. Scott, the main character of John Russell, in motion of following those clues, looking at the history, going to historical societies, looking up newspaper articles, doing seances, and then doing the investigative work. And I love that. I really, really, really love that. I don't know what you'd even call it, the sub category, because, horror, haunting, investigative haunting. But I really liked it. And I thought the plot deserved 19 out of 25 points. I really thought it was pretty solid. It did drag in some areas, and I think it could have used a little bit of a brush up in others, but overall, I really don't have a whole lot of complaints. The intent of this was to be a bit of an edge-of-the-seat, kind of creepy, suspenseful, ultimately thrilling horror movie, and I thought that it succeeded on all counts. This had a really good element of fear to it, that it wasn't, it had some jump scares and it had some moments like that where I thought it worked pretty well. It also had long drawn out suspense moments that I thought worked pretty well, but this also had another element to it that I thought worked really well, and that is just creepiness. The kind of thing where, the camera will go up to the dark landing of a staircase and something will happen that's absolutely impossible, and it's just nope. I love that creepiness to it. There's no way I'm going up those stairs, but of course you have to if you want to move the movie along. And us as the audience are forced to go with him. So I really, really like that. Everything that it was intending to be, I thought it was. I gave that 21 out of 25 points. And moving on to the acting, what can I really say? Am I going to look at a George C. Scott movie and complain about the acting? Probably not. He brings his George C. Scottness to the screen in very real ways. He takes over every scene, and he with his presence and his bravado and his gravel and grit, and he makes it his own. He really does chew up every moment that he's on the screen. And kudos to all the other actors in the movie for actually being able to stand toe to toe with him and keep and hold their own, and actually but overall, I really, really enjoyed it. The acting, I thought, was superb. Maybe a little bit too George C. Scott in points, but overall, I really, really did like it. So I gave the acting 21 out of 25 points as well. And the technical, this really didn't have a whole lot of special effects. It certainly didn't have any, real creature effects, anything along those lines. But it did have really strong camera work, lighting work, color palette work. It had some really strong work of the technical layout of a scene in order to provide that creepiness and to provide the level of potential dread. And I thought it worked really well. The technical, I really don't have a whole lot of complaints about. I thought that they did play with the shadows and play with light and darkness really, really, really well. I didn't see any fishing lines on anything that moved. So overall, I gave the technical 20 out of 25 points. And that brings us to a total score of 81 out of 100 points. And I really do recommend this movie. If you like haunting movies, if you like investigative haunting movies, if you just like general classic creepy movies, I thought this was genuinely good, genuinely fun, genuinely scary. And I now see what people were talking about. I enjoyed this now that I've seen it again outside of a movie marathon. So I think that should about do it for this episode of a RotD Review. I'm going to be discussing a lot more points that are spoiler-filled in the RotD Deep Dive discussion. So if you've seen the movie, if you don't mind it being spoiled, I invite you to watch that. Otherwise, if you like these videos, please click subscribe. And next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and RotD.